Alright, hello everybody. So we just finished playing all of the Cinders mod in 2025. We played the whole thing on stream. I made sure not to skip any bosses. This is, of course, the mod for Dark Souls 3. And I just wanted to go over how it was. As you can see what Cinders is, this is their mod page on Nexus Mods. It says it aims to provide a fresh experience through Dark Souls 3. It's a total overhaul, meaning practically everything has been touched in some way. For exact details, read the wiki. So starting off with the mod itself, it's very easy to install. I didn't really have any problems. Overall, it was a pretty fun experience. It made so many changes to the game that, at the very least, as somebody who's played through Dark Souls 3 like dozens of times, it gave me ample times of being like, oh, is this area going to be different, and what's going on with, you know, this boss and this weapon and all this other stuff. Speaking of classical music, okay, that's new. Hello. I really liked just how much armor and weapons they added to the game. It's kind of insane. The amount of armor and weapons is just huge. Their mod page here is pretty dimmed down. They don't tell you much. It just tells you basic overall things. There's so much added stuff. I mean, if you're a fan of Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1, then you'll probably really like Cinders because it takes a ton of content, weapons, armor, characters, bosses from Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2 and distributes it into Dark Souls 3. One of the main things that I found actually changed the gameplay in a positive way was it reverted poise from Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3 back to Dark Souls 1. So your armor and poise, if you remember from Dark Souls 1, you felt like a tank. Like, you could really tank hits and it just wouldn't mess with you. They removed that because it seemed OP in Dark Souls 2 and 3, and there was a lot of times where I thought I was going to get knocked over and I just didn't because I was using heavy armor. Added poise. That was really cool. And you can see right here, all they say is poise is now passive and active 100% of the time rather than specifically during weapon swings. So I'm sure they did some behind the scenes stuff. From a gameplay perspective, all I can say is it felt like Dark Souls 1. Another big change, you can see right here, magic has been redesigned to operate in a more fluid way. FP naturally regenerates, and casting is designed around this. So I didn't play a caster, I played a heavy armor strength build character, and so I didn't make too much use of this, but I did notice it, and it was kind of an interesting mechanic. So I want to maybe play Cinders again somewhere down the road and try it with, you know, maybe a caster. So I think that'd be fun. Plus there's tons and tons and tons and tons of new spells, pyromancies, and my one negative experience, and maybe this is on me for not quite understanding, but at the very beginning of the game, it asks you what mode you want to play in. And I was like, oh, I'll just play normal mode. And it shows you, hey, what journey do you want to do? Do you want standard mode, explorer, wanderer, mythic, and your starting location? Maybe I didn't quite understand the menus and how things work, but I just did standard mode and it says there's no changes to gameplay. So I was like, oh, okay, great. I thought I saw some of the other modes. It says, yeah, this one, wanderer mode, removes the ability to reinforce equipment. And I was like, oh, I definitely don't want to do that. So I'll just do standard mode. And I definitely selected standard mode, but I still couldn't reinforce my equipment. So the whole game I went through with base level weapons, and I think they did this on purpose, and they adjusted boss health accordingly to where, you know, Midir doesn't have 10,000 whatever health he has in base game if you're only going to do, you know, 50 health each time. I didn't feel like this was enough, and it was a big point of frustration throughout the whole game where it was like, man, I've leveled up so many times, and then I went back to a previous area and I had to go fight a boss that I missed, and I'm still doing no damage even though I've leveled up so many times and I've gotten so much better. And it removes that sense of progression from the game, which I really disagree with. And again, maybe I just messed up my game, maybe I could have, I don't know. If you guys want to check, my whole playthrough is on my second channel. The link will be in the description to the full playlist, unedited. It's the whole VODs of me playing Cinders. So you guys can come check those out, see what I did at the very beginning, and then you say, oh, you're an idiot. This is why you could have just fixed it in that way. You just let me know. I wouldn't be surprised if I messed things up. So that was like my one big gripe with the game. Other than that, it was actually super worth it. There are a bunch of different bosses that are new and different challenges and areas that like are slightly adjusted. I will say most of the areas that they messed with, they made it more difficult. I think there are some areas towards the end of the game where it's actually a little bit easier with the Cinders mod for some reason. Maybe it's just me and I had trouble with those in base game and some of their changes specifically helped me. I'm not sure. That was interesting. It says new friendly merchants and hostile NPCs enemies. This is such an understatement. Firelink Shrine is swarmed with people. Like, there are people everywhere, and every single one has its own covenant, and every single covenant has its own item that does specific things. They drop their own specific covenant item, then you can level up their covenant and upgrade the specific things, and like there's a lot to explore, a lot to unpack. So they've also added weapons and people from Bloodborne, and I think I even saw some things from Sekiro, but I could be misremembering. But like, there's just so much. So if you guys haven't played it yet, I would definitely suggest it. Something that I didn't use because I don't really do this, but you can even kind of do their own version of like co-op summoning, kind of like the ashes in Elden Ring. So you can summon, you can purchase and find enemies that you can summon to help you. Very similar to the ashes. So if it's too hard, you could do stuff like that. I mean, overall, it was a great experience. There's so much more to this mod that you won't really get until you have played Dark Souls 3 a couple times and then play the whole thing. So I would definitely suggest it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Take care. I will catch you next time. Bye. God bless.